I am Jason Merriweather, the Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management and Student Affairs at Indiana University Southeast in New Albany, Indiana. I am humbled to be here because you have chosen to be here with us for this conversation. The title is on the PowerPoint slide. You've seen it in Compass or the program guide. How many of you have seen me tweet about it? Okay, cool. So you know you know the title, you know why you're here, you know the discussion we're prepared to have. I am humbled not only because you're here, but because of these dynamic panelists to have this conversation. Glass Ceilings of Mirrors, Career Trajectory for Black Student Affairs Professionals. We are going to tell the truth in this room, camera or no camera. We are going to tell the truth in this room because that's the way we do this. This conversation is going to be interactive. We will be talking about a few concepts and theories. I will guide that conversation. We'll not be in it, but we'll guide it. But you've got some great people to learn from today, so thank you for joining us. You ready to go? Yeah. Ground rule number one for me. This is, if nothing else, keeping up with the times. Who has Twitter? Who has Facebook? Okay. I remember once when I presented and I saw people with their phones and I thought I was boring everybody. And then afterward, I got the greatest ego boost on earth when I saw all those tweets. Hashtag break the glass. Anything you like, please throw it in that hashtag. Hashtag break the glass. That's what we're looking to do today. To set you with a set of solutions, ideas, and strategies to break the glass. But before we talk about breaking the glass, I want you to meet our dynamic panelists who will help take us on that journey. Start with my colleague, Dr. Boone. Just tell us who you are, where you're from, and the knowledge will come shortly thereafter.
Hello all. Hello. I had to stand because you won't see my 6'2" frame sitting down. I'm Dr. Kyle Boone. I'm a recent graduate of Louisiana State University. I am currently the Director of Campus Life at Houston-Tillotson University in Austin, Texas. Do not get the name confused. Houston and Austin happens. Where I run all student organizations and programming across the board, including residence life. So that's what I do, and I'm going to pass the mic.
Good afternoon. My name is Tamika Warlow. I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I currently work at East Carolina University, where I serve as the director for the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities. I'm a current doctoral candidate in the Educational Leadership Program at East Carolina University as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Williams. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I work at Texas A&M University Commerce, which is just, we share a name with College Station, but we're not the same school. And I serve as the area coordinator there for residential living and learning, where I oversee all of our living learning communities, one which is our African American male mentorship program, and the other is our women's and leadership learning. I also oversee our judicial process, and I'm also a doctorate student there at Texas A&M University Commerce.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ebony Turnbull, and I am the coordinator of student life and leadership development at Wayne State University, which is in Detroit, Michigan. I am also a doctoral student starting in the fall, so I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Good afternoon. My name is Candace. I'm an associate professor at the Indiana State University. I teach in the higher ed leadership department, higher ed leadership program in the educational leadership department.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Hart. I serve as the Director for Housing and Residence Life at IUPUI, which is Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis.
Good afternoon. Zeb Davenport, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at IUPUI.
So I know we're going to start you first. All right. We're deep. This panel is very deep, very sizable, and that's okay. You've seen on the screens, I've had their Twitter handles and email addresses. If you wish to reach out to any of them, don't forget hashtag break the glass. Let's begin. You've had our introductions. I've told you we're going to be active, we're going to be engaging. The problem statement, how do we come to do this program? This is the most I will speak during this program other than guiding the conversation. 4 years ago, I had a colleague who I met at a conference, actually at a NASPA in Phoenix, Arizona. Maybe it was 3 years ago. This colleague needed some help. And after we had a conversation about looking for a job, this colleague said to me, hey, I'll follow up with you. We had a group conversation with a few professionals, And following that, I ended up hiring this colleague, and they came to work in my last institution. We did some great work, good friend, doing good things. About 3 months into my colleague's job, they said to me, boy, Jason, I'm glad I followed up with you. I said, what do you mean? Well, after we exchanged business cards and the group of us that were talking, a couple of the other folks said, you know what, I'm not going to call him. He's probably really not going to help. You know, probably never remember us after the conference. I'm not going to follow up. Then the person said, well, I challenged him and said, well, what about all the people you're meeting? He said, nah, we're not doing anything with those business cards. We're not doing anything. My colleagues said they followed up with every single person they met at the conference by email, phone call, social media, or letter, while her other colleagues, who were African American like her, chose not to follow up. And as we were having that conversation, I was like, wow, that's good that you did that, but I'm really worried about your colleagues. And that person looked at me and said, well, you know, we ought to do a program about that. And so I said, you know, that makes sense. So we started doing some research. And then we did this program 2 years ago in Vegas and in Baltimore. Ebony was on that panel. See Dr. Dover in the room, he was on that panel. Dr. Hart was there. And we got some new faces that are going to be a part of the conversation today. And so we're bringing this home for a couple of reasons. What's the statistical significance, the research background? Across the vast and growing workforce in student affairs, a minuscule 8.4% is African American or identifies as African American. Why is that interesting? Because from 1976 to 2010, the percentage of Hispanic students or Latino students, it was Hispanic, I'm quoting, but Latino students, Asian Pacific Islander students, all of these different demographies had growth. The percentage of black students grew between 1976 and 2010. The interesting thing about that is that while the student populations grew, the representation in administration grew for every group except one. Guess which one? Black professionals have stayed flat since the late 70s in student affairs, according to the research. So some of this is going to talk about campus model when we get to the recommendations. We're going to do a lot of things, but that was a challenge for me. And so then coupling that literature with the conversation that I had with my colleague that day in my office, I realized we need to talk about a few things. These are some best practice things that come from Cantor's model. We're not going to dig deep into that. We're just going to throw out some topics. I'm going to guide the conversation with our panelists. We're going to touch on each one of these today. You all will have an opportunity to ask questions. Please feel free to jump in and throw it out. Is it time to tell the truth, y'all? Yes. All right, I'm done. Let's go. Let's talk about mentorship with black professionalism. What's going on with mentorship? Do we need it? Is it important? How do we establish good mentor relations? We'll start with Dr. Davenport on that question for a lot of good reasons. Whatever you like.
So ask the question again.
What role and what value does mentorship play for black professionals? Do we need it?
So, yeah, the answer is yes. No question. All right, so to me, the answer is yes, we do need it. But I will elaborate in this way, that we often think that mentorship is a one-way relationship or a one-way conversation. So to establish a mentor, sometimes people will say, will you be my mentor? Well, I mean, that's not how it works, right? In my opinion, you establish that relationship through a relationship. But even with mentors and mentees, I think each party has to bring something to the table. It's not a one-way conversation. I'm going to call you whenever I have a problem and that's it, or whenever I have a question and that's it. I was mentored by a person when I was in graduate school, and at the time it wasn't even about being a mentor. It was about having a conversation over tea once every 3 weeks. We had a cup of tea, and this is how the conversation would go. He'd say, what's on your mind? Tell me something good. What are you doing that's positive? And now let's talk about some other issues. Over the course of my career, he also then became, as he grew up in the administration, he and I maintained that relationship. Years down the road, he became a vice president of student affairs, and I was still the person that would come and talk to him every so often, and eventually I became his associate vice president for student affairs. And the ironic thing about that relationship was the color of his skin was very different than the color of my skin. And I'll just say this, and then I'm going to shut up on this question. He said to me, you definitely need mentors that look like you. He said, but I can be a mentor for you, and I can teach you things about white-collar America that other folks can't. So while I won't try to tell you what it feels like or means to be an African-American male in higher education, I can tell you how this system works. And even to this day, in fact, in the hallway, just out in the hallway, I ran across him, and we had a conversation. So mentorship, the relationship, is important.
Any other thoughts for the panelists on mentorship? It's hard to preach after the preacher.
Dr. Hart.
Sure. When we think about a mentor, you hear the term mentor, and that's a myth right there. You can have more than one mentor, so don't limit yourself and think that you can only have one mentor, you can't have multiple people in your corner. There's no magic number, but keep an open mind. Dr. Davenport mentioned looking at mentors that don't necessarily look like us, and that's definitely a value, but don't limit yourself to one mentor. The other thing I'll tell you is make sure that you put forth just as much effort as well. A lot of times we are enthusiastic within the first 5 minutes, and we have a great conversation during the conference, and we send one follow-up email, and we're reaching out to this person and we're asking them to be one of our mentors, and we expect them to send 20 emails to your one. It doesn't work like that. Remember, this is a symbiotic relationship, and it is very important for you to put forth the effort because usually the person that you're trying to ask to be a mentor is very busy. Usually it's a senior administrator, so put forth the energy and effort as well, and understand that it works both ways, similar to what Dr. Davenport said. So,
I'll just add my experience. I lacked that as a graduate student, working towards both my master's and my PhD, and it was nobody's fault but mine. I was what you call one of the diffident students, introverted, a little bit afraid, didn't ask questions. I was one of those who did not seek out the questions, and while I saw my peers going to conferences like you're doing, they were at conferences, they were presenting, they were working with faculty members and finding ways. I didn't know to ask those questions. In fact, I didn't even know what graduate school was as I was leaving undergrad. I was like, graduate school, what's that? Why are you going to school again? So when I got to graduate school, 12 years after being out of undergrad, I was really out of the loop. And because I didn't have mentoring, I was always late to the party. I was always late to the dance. I was always late to the jobs. I was always behind the curve. And finally, folks started reaching out to me after I had my degree. And then I learned the value of what everybody else was getting. And so while you may feel like a little chagrin in terms of going after somebody or grabbing them, and you may not just say, it may not be as overt as, will you be my mentor? Build a relationship, and the mentoring is almost a natural progression. And I've had the opportunity to be that for so many students since my time in the academy as a professional, after coming out of graduate school and becoming a professor, knowing my story. So I start looking for the students who are diffident, who don't ask the questions, who don't seek, who aren't aggressive, who aren't assertive, but it's in them. I can see a spark. I know they understand the world. I know they understand the material. They're doing the work, but they don't do, I think they just don't know to do the extra thing. But if you are like I was, jump out of your shell a little bit. Tag along. May I come? May I hear what you're talking about? May I write with you? May I present with you? I got an idea about something. And so you as my colleagues have said, you need to push the envelope a little yourself, and that mentoring relationship will build from a natural relationship. It's vitally important.
All 6'2". Yeah. Everything everybody just said is perfect. I just want to add, in student affairs, we have I could be honest, right? We could become real groupie-ish. right? So you see somebody that you like or that you really want to be like, and you'll go seek that person out. When you're looking for a mentor, in my mind, you need somebody who's going to be critical to you and with you, because when you choose your counselor, you choose your counselor. So you need somebody who's going to tell you that's stupid, or that's not it, or why are you doing that? I had a mentor tell me when I was trying to go to grad school, I said, listen, I'm going to go to grad school, and I want to do it half and half. I want to do part-time school and full-time work. And the person said, listen, we can talk about anything else other than grad school from here on out. And I said, why is that? I can't mentor you now because that's not who you are. So until you get serious, we'll talk about anything else but that. It took somebody to tell me I was wrong for me to realize I had a good mentor. So when you're choosing a relationship, choose somebody that's going to be critical and not somebody who we're technically grouping for, somebody who we want to be just like, who thinks like you, who acts like you, somebody who's willing to challenge you to be that much better. And that's that reflexivity thing you have to do. You have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I need? And then seek that out.
Couple questions from the audience. Anybody have any burning questions on mentoring? Any mentoring relationship questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Adams, and I'm a graduate student at Western Illinois University. And I have a question on the topic of mentorship because I did my undergrad and my graduate degree at Western Illinois University, and I don't have a lot of people of color, and that has been something I actually talked to one of my current mentors, who is a white woman, about a lot, how I'd really like a person of color as a mentor. And this is my second ACPA, and so my question is, how would I go? So me choosing her as a mentor was very easy because she's one of my faculty members. I interact with her daily. I know her. I know that she can challenge me. But at these conferences, I meet a lot of people, and they're really great, but I only know them for a day or two. And so how would I even go about kind of like, how do I know if they're going to challenge me? Yeah, you could just take it away.
We got people fighting for the mic.
Oh, so brotherly of you. I'm gonna kind of tie this in with the next point because to me it's related. So when you come to these conferences, I think one mistake that people make is that, and I'm gonna tie this back to mentoring in one moment, is that you hear network, 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 and I'm personally getting to a place where it's like I'm so over network and more of connect. Because you come to the conference and like you said, you meet these people, but when you leave, what do you do? And so that's the connection piece that's important. And like Zeb said, it is awkward to meet someone at 11 o'clock and at 11:04 you ask them to be your mentor. That's just a little weird. But if you follow up with them in an email, and like Dr. Hart said, not the one email because you're really excited, but continuously put in an effort so that they get to know you. And when you see them at the next regional conference and then the next national conference, and what happens is you're learning each other, and they're growing you're growing and they're growing, and they're learning what you would like to do, what your goals are, what areas you want to push yourself in. And so you're naturally starting to build this mentoring relationship without having to overtly say, will you be my mentor? Because if they weren't willing to help or assist you, they wouldn't continue a conversation with you. So my advice, I like to use the term connect. I personally set a goal for myself. Every regional or national convention that I go to, I want to connect with at least 3 people thereafter. That's my personal goal, every single one. And you don't have to talk to them every week, you don't have to talk to them every day, but you have to build a relationship. And that comes from you stepping outside your comfort zone, like Candace said, and pushing yourself out of a shell and really just getting into if you're really seeking that, say, okay, I am going to, you may know that your goal is to make that person their mentor, but they don't have to know that because it'll build naturally. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, I would be remiss if I did not stand up here and say one of the key things, you said you've been to ACPA twice. I didn't start getting a mentor until I started in 2009. But the first thing I did was that there were individuals who told me to get involved. And getting involved in your professional organizations is very important. And so as a member of the Pan-African Network, one of the main things that we do is mentoring. As a matter of fact, after we leave here, we have a mentoring social that's at 5 o'clock in the embassy. Come on over if you're looking for a mentor. But really, the aspect of that is it does not stop here. There are many individuals who are in this room who are older than me, who are in different organizations than me, that have mentored me within different parts of my life. And mentoring does not always have to be this lifelong span thing. It can be you can have a mentor through your graduate program, and then have a mentor that helps you in your first job, and then they're able to just add different things to your professional life. For example, I actually happened to meet Jason Merriweather at a Hawaii, walking around and having a conversation, and we created this mentorship aspect because I followed up with him afterwards. I took the business card and emailed him and talked about how I appreciated him taking time to talk to me. And then through that, we started texting each other and talking about how things are going. And it wasn't every day, it wasn't every week, it'd be like once a month, and just saying like, how are things going? How's the job search going? Or I saw you posted something on Facebook and you seem frustrated. And so social media plays a large part in that as well, because you're able to also connect with people in different ways. So being able to do that, it's hard sometimes. You do have to step out of your shell. That's very true. But then also when you're looking for individuals, look for individuals who are also going to invest in you. So as much as you're investing that time to get to know them, you want someone who's going to give you that time to invest back in you. And maybe they get you through your job search process, because I had many mentors who helped me through my first C3 experience and through my first job and getting that. And we connect every now and then, but they don't serve in that same capacity now as they did then. Does that mean that they weren't my mentors? No, they were mentors for that time. But then there are also mentors who are life mentors for me. So I talk to them all the time. We talk about life experiences, how family and things are going. So you just have to be able to judge that. And I think, as Dr. Hart said, you get used to that mentor and you think of the one person. But you really should have, it takes a village to raise a child. And so you really probably want to have that village of mentors who are going to be able to help you.
So moving into that networking, question.
I don't want damper the mood.
Okay.
But what do you do when you get a mentor who has wronged you or burned you, who was the same color as you? Now I know I made a mistake where I didn't have anything like this to say this is how you going. I'm old school where I was, I find that one that looked like me. She had a job that I had possibly wanted. I wouldn't look like her, and then when I ended up having to work with her, I realized that we're different. Our work ethic is different. I said, you try it out, but I became an issue that, so being in a population where we are small, and we're very few, how do you get past that? Or just tell everybody, how do you correct it? What do you do forward? Because I'm be honest, it's still hard for me to move forward, but I know I should be political and not down by others for the system. I'm not going to let nobody else see me do that, but when I say I'm bothered.
Yeah, you helped us get real. That was nice. No, I think that's a very real experience. And part of the reality of mentorship is understanding that there will be really good experiences and there are going to be some really bad experiences. But you got to humble yourself enough to know that this is the building block, right? In order for you to move forward and be able to tell that testimony or that future story later on, it's these experiences that are going to help somebody else, right? And you already know that I could be, my name's Tamika, and so sometimes I have those moments where I'm like, should I be Tamika right now? But in that moment, sometimes you have to recognize what is the betterment for you. How am I going to move forward from this in a way that's still going to be advantageous for me? And I know that it may be recognizing I'm not going to deal with this person anymore without demeaning them or putting down their name to other people in the future, but you can still do that in a very tasteful way. Mr. Merriweather, he serves as my mentor, and I have a lot of mentors, but he's very real with me. Sometimes I may state someone's name or I may say something, and he may say, I think that person is good for you, but you may want to focus on this area with that person. And that's very helpful for me because it narrows in what this person may be beneficial for in my life at this time in that regard. So while it will never take away a negative experience that I've had, it does serve as a lesson for the future. And I really hope that it helps future black women like me when they come into my office and I may hear something that they say and I know, okay, well, I've experienced this, so let me, in some way, let them know that it doesn't have to be the same for them.
Anybody else on that? Go ahead, brother.
I'll say it this way. People are people. And just because somebody looks like us doesn't mean they're going to treat us a certain way. Because there's a book that we often read, and in that book the author said, if it were an enemy, I could have bore it, right? So sometimes people who we took sweet counsel with, right? But I will also say this, one of the best lessons I learned from a person with whom I call a mentor, and this individual doesn't know that I call them a mentor, is a person that I said, you know what, when I get to that position, I'm not going to treat people like this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to talk like this. Never do you talk badly about them, right? You just don't. You don't have to, but you learn from it. And so what did I learn? I'm not going to do these things and keep it moving. Because if it stays here and it's bitter, it'll rot and it hurts in here and that person's gone.
You really should drop it. So, I don't need it. Sam touched on a great point, and give this to Dr. Henry. I know she's going to have this together. One of the interesting dynamics is we're looking at mentorship, relationships, building networks. I had a colleague who just asked me for advice about a month ago. And I really kind of eschew the term mentor. I just say, maybe I'll tell you something that's helpful, and if it's not, stop listening to me. But a colleague asked me for some advice, and they were telling me they'd worked in 2 different jobs. And they were really upset that their first job, their boss was a white woman. And everything was really racist and really bad and really negative. So they went to another institution. They worked for a white male. And everything was really racist and really bad. Then they went to another institution, got stuck working for another white male. And everything was really racist and really bad. And so as I listen to the story, I'm looking like, gosh, I need to give you a mirror right now. And I then wanted to come back and ask some questions about what are the common denominators in the issues that you're having. One of the tough challenges, and one of the things, I didn't say this in my introduction, but I've told people, this will not be a blame any one session. This is introspective. So what happens when you're seeing problems and you're having problems at one institution or another, or one boss or another, and these same problems are happening for black professionals? And we keep, it just seems like, but is race really in every single pocket, in every nook and cranny we go? Help me with that. Help us with that.
Brother Jason, I don't know if I am the one to answer. Race is salient, probably in every situation. It is who we are. Our gender is salient. And it's the lens by which we see just about everything. Everywhere I go, that's what I see. But is every event that happens to me racist, or is every stumbling block racist? I just mentioned to you who I was, the kind of individual that I was, and how I can look within myself to see areas where I could have improved to be a better student, to be a better professional. And so learning that about me is how I either make my way around those racist moments, or how I say, you know, that really wasn't racist, that was me. But I think that if we understand the notion of trust and introspection, because what we do, what we've come to do with ourselves and with each other, we have started to compete against each other rather than competing with each other. These brothers came in and said, this one said, I'm going to outdress you today. But that's the and I don't know which one did, they both clean. But that's not actually competing against. We're competing with each other. And until we know that we stand stronger as a community, Martin Luther King wrote the book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. And so what we've done is we've been able to use the race card, we've been able to use racism rather than building our community from where we were 50 years ago when we were community. And we've gotten some privileges and we've gotten some policies and some laws that have moved us beyond the de jure problems to some de facto, but we know how to work around those. When we were in community, we worked around the de jure. You know how we did that? We had meetings, we talked to each other, we collaborated. And now rather than collaborating, we're confusing each other. We don't come back together. I think the key is the connections that we need to make so that the mentor can tell us, sweetheart, dude, man, whatever, you think about it this way. If it is a racism problem, here's how you can handle it. It doesn't become invisible. It's not that it's not real. You're not crazy. Maybe this is happening to you. But if you think about your actions around that particular issue, how do you operate? Do you get to work on time? You're not calling in. You're not taking off on Mondays and Fridays. 6 grandmothers haven't died and you had to get off. So some things, and then you say, well, they let my colleague off for this and that. No, that ain't them. This is you. And you have to abide within the system. There's a system in place that we have to learn to endure and make work for ourselves. And so the professional ethic, the work ethic that you bring to the table, if you go from one institution to the next, and it's the same issue, then you're right. What's the common denominator? It might be within.
And can you give that to Dr. Hart? Dr. Hart, as y'all may not know, was actually my first boss. He gave me my first job as an undergrad student. And one of the early conversations we had, I remember I missed a meeting, and I can't repeat the words that he used after I missed that meeting. But he had a conversation with me about looking at myself and my skills and my performance. And he's really good with that. You want to talk a little bit about this idea of honest approach to skill evaluation and for Black professionals?
Yeah. You know, we keep saying that this is a safe environment, okay? And one thing about whether it's networking or mentoring, you need to first establish a safe environment with whoever you are looking towards to provide critical, honest feedback, which is something Dr. Boone said. If you are looking for mentorship or advice, but you only want the positive advice and you only want the good times, then you're doing yourself a disservice and you're wasting the time of the other person, okay? Sometimes in the heat of the battle, someone can say, hey, you messed up, you should have done this better, what are we going to do to make it better the next time? And if you can walk out of that meeting and say, I needed to hear that, I needed to hear that, you should feel not necessarily a need to improve on your skills just because of the fact that you disappointed yourself, but also you need to think about the disappointment as it has a domino effect, okay? You own it and then you move forward. But you need to understand that not every day will be sunny, and you need to take the constructive criticism, okay, in an honest environment and use that to make you stronger and use that to make you better. And that's how you'll know, one, that you have a good mentor, and it's also how you'll know that you're on the right track. So in the conversations that Jason and I have had throughout the years, and some of the conversations I've had with several individuals, it comes from a place of love. You know, the criticism can come from a place of love, and I can tell you, you will become a better person, a better staff member, and then you can impart that knowledge on the next person. Because one thing that we'll talk about later is, okay, so after you get the advice, after you find the mentors, you realize that everybody in this room, you're also obligated to pass it along, right? Is there anybody that doesn't know that? Because if you don't know that, get over it. What you learn, you need to keep passing it on. You've been tasked with that from here on out, so.
One thing I would say about honest approach to skill evaluation is don't be complacent. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of peers, a lot of colleagues where we get into our jobs and life starts happening, right? So if you have families, or if you're in school, or you have the job, of course, or some of us are involved in extracurriculars. But I think it's not graduate school anymore, so no one is standing over you with a competency list saying, do you have some sort of competency in these areas? You are in charge of your own growth and advancement, and it's never too early to continue to grow. And so what I would say is, get comfortable in whatever job that it is, but at some point you are going to become, in my opinion, you should be comfortable enough to where you have that skill set, but how are you gaining and growing in other areas? Because there's a whole lot of areas, and you're always growing, so we're not great in all of them. And so seek out whether it's committees at that particular institution or professional associations. I know for me, the professional association route has been absolutely amazing in my personal career trajectory. Currently the past president for the Michigan College Personnel Association, my mentors, one who happens to be in this room, thrusted me first year out of grad school and said, we gonna nominate you for president-elect. Who, me? Right? And because they saw something, but I had informed her what my goals were, and that I'm looking to grow in these areas. And so being able to lead an executive board of 20 or so individuals was definitely an enriching experience for me. So evaluate yourself yearly, set yearly goals. I'm a big goal setter, if y'all can't tell. Set yearly goals, but actually assess them and seek an area to focus on for this particular year or an area or two. And once you gain that, go to the next area. There's something new in student affairs literally every other month. And so if you continue to stay up on the different theories and approaches and best practices, you're growing your skill set, which essentially helps your trajectory down the road. So.
And any thoughts, any questions? I want to throw something in.
Hi, my name is Shatina M. Jones, and I have a question for the panel, and anyone can answer this. So as we have this conversation about an honest approach to skill evaluation, what happens when you have someone that you potentially work with who's not competent enough to even give you the kind of honest feedback that you want, and the feedback that they are giving you may not be in alignment with a little bit of what Ebony said in terms of being able to keep up with the times and or not put said person in a spirit, in an atmosphere of complacency.
They said send it over. Give it to Zeb.
Because I chuckle don't mean I was supposed to talk about it.
Because something happened within you when
So
you said
I
it.
just laughed. I was like,
Go ahead.
all right.
Say something.
So we, most of us have been raised to, before I say this is something I've been meaning to say about mentor. I do need to honor a mentor in here, Dr. Mary Howard Hamilton. Don't be acting like no, you know. Yeah. And so somebody of her caliber who comes and supports all of us in many different ways. I just wanted to honor your presence, so thank you so much. We've been taught that you have to be better 3, 4, 5 times better than your counterparts. So don't be dismayed if you get in a situation where you find yourself better. But that doesn't mean we stop. And the other part of that is, I always pride myself on saying, my expectation of how I perform is going to be far exceeding from the people that say to me, this is what I expect of you. So I don't even worry about that. But if you need assistance in your professional career with people to help you with your competencies or your skills or your, whatever it is you need, then you seek that. It may not be at your institution. You seek that from other folks. But their thoughts, their abilities can't define who we are, or they will determine our outcome.
So with that, what happens, because sometimes in the majority community, relationships and information become an important part of the supervisory relationship. This is unique challenges. I'm scared because I'm going to come back to you. Sometimes that's a challenge. And I know a number of colleagues who are black professionals who their mom was like mine and said, you better not go to school and tell my business. And that's ingrained. But then the relational aspect says, oh, I want to know who you're dating. I want to know what you did. I want to know about your family. I want to know what you spent your money. Those relational aspects can sometimes happen. And I know a number of black professionals who say to me, we're doing our job, but there becomes this issue of trust that seems to be impacting my career because I'm keeping my business to myself. But that doesn't fit the environment. Help preach on that, please.
I'm tweeting. Right there, I'm hashtagging, I'm slow. Ooh, I mentioned trust a few minutes ago, and trust not being who we are anymore. And I think, Shatina, your comment and the young lady who talked about a mentor burning her or not being mentoring or whatever that is, but so this level of trust that we have. I think reality TV is not real. I hope it's not, but it seems that even in higher ed, we have this moment where we are so competitive against each other that we start not to trust each other enough to talk to each other. We do not talk to each other. We don't trust each other. We don't trust the credential that each of us, or the experiences that each of us have brought to the table, that we are not a monolithic group, that we have a lot of diverse experiences, that we can lean on each other, talk to each other. But we got this notion where we don't trust each other, and that's the breakdown I think that we have within our community. And so if we don't trust each other, you know it's going to be difficult to trust somebody outside the community. And so we do have that lens that, you know, somebody's out to get me. I think we've been smoking too much weed and we're paranoid.
Don't tweet that.
Don't tweet that.
Got to know this.
Yeah, yes. Keep the glass.
Got to know which tweetable. Don't tweet that.
I'm just talking about being paranoid. Whatever makes us paranoid. It might be smoking too much weed. Just because it's legal somewhere don't mean you have to do it. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, it is the notion that we don't trust either. So how do we get back to trusting? It's in building the relationships and telling each other the truth without being mean-spirited. So there is something behind our critique of each other, but I think we can critique each other in a way that's loving. And I think at the end of the day, if we don't love each other, we can't save each other. And so we need to be in community and trust each other, trust the process, trust that where you are is where you're supposed to be. Even if that person is incompetent, it doesn't have the skill set that you do, there is something, again, that you can learn what not to do, what not to wear, how not to act, and you can still build trust and stop smoking weed.
I wanted to touch on Jason's comment that was made earlier regarding workplace relationships and how open are you. In a previous job, no need to say names or anything like that, right? There was an evaluation that I had. And part of my evaluation, I was marked down because I wasn't open enough to that institution. I wasn't a part of the team, it was stated. And I'm a natural introvert. That doesn't mean I don't like people. I just have my moments where it's like I'm really in, and then I'm really, I need to get in that closet real. After this conference, I'm going to get in that closet. But there are moments where I like to be by myself. And so I'm not a part of the work group softball team or this kickball team that we have. But I'm very much committed to the department. And when I come in, I put forth all my effort, and I do my work just as good as anybody else. And so when I was evaluated and marked down, part of me needed to figure out how I was going to address that, because I knew it wasn't right, one, and two, I needed to make sure I did it appropriately so there wouldn't be another demerit, right? So I went back to my supervisor and inquired, can you explain to me how you process this? I need to understand a little bit more about how you felt I wasn't a part of this team or contributed in a way that met your standing. And it really was. You don't show up to the kickball teams. You know, when we do different things, you just aren't there. And so the question became, well, is that a part of the evaluation? Because I didn't know that. Because I come to work on time, and I do my job. My record reflects that. And I'm very supportive when there's a problem or we have a meeting and someone needs to take part in committee work. But I didn't know the kickball thing was a part of it. Nobody told me that. And so it got to an understanding that your interpretation is very different in terms of being involved than mine. And you need to understand that if it's after work hours and it's something that's voluntary, if I truly don't want to be committed to it, I'm not going to. But there are other ways that I'm going to show you that I'm a part of this team, even if it is after work hours. So I think that it's very important for people to understand that your relationship and the way you want to connect may not look just like mine, but don't discredit what I can contribute and bring to the team.
I don't know if I'm gonna preach. This conversation has happened before. Similar to what Tamika said, it was marked down regarding the fact that I was not active. And so I pushed back on that and said, similar, you're looking at my relationships that I'm building with you all within the department. The category is relationship building. But you're not looking at the relationships that I'm building with the reason I'm here, which is to work with my students. You're not seeing the work I'm doing with students who are up crying at 8 o'clock at night. You're not seeing the work I'm doing with the parents. And so the reason, and we talked about trust in the department, and working in, I've been in housing residence life all my life, but working with that, having to understand that we are a very relationship building department. We work together, we live together, and anybody who's worked in housing knows you get tired of seeing the same people every single day. So, I mean, we had to have a real conversation about that and saying that, I need my space and time just like everybody else does. I can't go home to my family. I go home to my dog. So, really having a conversation about that and pushing back. So, we had a conversation about it, and actually he had to change his opinion on that because he said, well, we talk about trust in the department and you say that you don't trust everyone here. And I was very honest and said, trusting everyone in the department is not my job. My job is to be here to work with my students. That's why I'm here, and that's why I stay here, and that's why I do the work I do every day and work hard every day and get up, and I'm here from 8 a.m. to almost 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So being able to judge me on I'm not coming to the potluck is not really the reason I'm here. I'm here to work with these students.
I didn't know. There's a follow-up to that, right? So I'm just going, this is a question, a provocative question. Because, right, so to thine own self be true, right? Yeah. Right. There's something called code switching, right? We're talking. So. Right. So here's the thing. I'm just going to say it like I believe it to be true. And this is my truth, so if it doesn't fit for you, so be it. But here's the thing. We can X ourselves out of a conversation and become irrelevant because we don't want to be in that space. But I can be in that space and allow people to feel comfortable with me, as comfortable as I want them to be. But if we X ourselves out, then we are out. And I'm telling you that from experience. Because when you need somebody and you've isolated yourself, they don't know you enough to speak for you. So I'm not trying to tell anybody to do something that's against their own morals and values. Just know every decision we make, and I work with this brother all the time. He knows I'm true to me, right? Yes, sir. But you have to know how to, I said enough. We could go on that all day long.
Let me just say this. There are, we did a panel for the Pan-African group. There are strategies to be able to do this, right? There are some strategies, but we'd be in here all day discussing this. So here's an opportunity right now. This session is going to end, and you're going to have a choice. You can either walk out that door and go to your next social or your next session, or you can take advantage of meeting the individuals up here and say, here's my situation. Can you give me some advice on how I can navigate through this? Because I love talking about the potluck, but not probably as much as my colleague right there, Dr. Holtz right there. But there are strategies to navigate through that and not devalue what you believe in, and at the same time, quote unquote, play the game.
So with that in mind, strategy. I'm working so hard. I have colleagues with certain jobs and certain degrees, and they're doing certain things. But you know, I just can't go back to school. Come on, you know, surely I can do this without going back to school. Dr. Boone, talk to me about the advanced degree and how that experience relates to career trajectory for black professionals, please, sir. He's ready.
All right, so, okay. Most of us in this room have said probably, I want to be a doctor, right? Don't know why, but you want to be a doctor. You saw somebody, I got to be like him or her. I saw Dr. Sujay, I was like, where is he? I got to be like him. So I wanted to be a doctor. I have a running joke with my mentors, my friends, my colleagues. School ain't for everybody. And if you embrace that journey, you better embrace that journey. So what I'm about to say is this: your doctorate degree or your mentor is not your cape. It will not save you. I'm dealing with probably more stuff now with a degree than I did without a degree. People asking me questions about stuff that I didn't even read. Like we read the same thing in every program. I'm like, I don't even, what are you talking about? I'm a qualitative person. You talking about stats. I don't, whatever. So there's certain things, like I'm getting challenged by people with honorary degrees. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, why are we even in this conversation? But it's dead serious. I know we're taping this. I had a guy tell me, I'm not calling you doctor until I see a transcript. Not lying. Anyway, so with the advanced degree, I just want y'all to be careful. It's not built for everybody, and if you are gonna do it, make sure you do have a mentor, but please don't think you're gonna get this degree and it's gonna save all your problems. It isn't. Matter of fact, if you really look at the basis of the degree is gonna cause more problems, because you're supposed to start thinking critically about the things around you. The conversation about the code switching and work-life balance. These are things, when you get your degree, you're gonna start saying, well, why is it okay to work from 8 to 3? How come nobody has challenged that? You know what I mean? So this is, and then people are not going to like you for that. They're going to say, there's that person who asks all the questions, we gotta avoid them. So just be careful. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm proud of my degree. I wear it. I don't like saying it, but I wear it. But it is what it is. But I don't want you to think you're gonna get it and it's over and you're gonna get the vice president position, even though you don't know what a vice president does. But you're gonna get the vice president position and you're gonna run a campus, even though you don't know what running a campus is. So these are things that I want you to be careful of, because we have a misnomer that this degree saves all, and it doesn't.
Anybody else?
I'll comment kind of to a flip of that. I think I've been fortunate. I have a great support system. Some and almost all of them are either pursuing degrees and or already have them, doctoral degrees. And what I would say is, I know in the circle that I'm in, they have a support group where every Saturday they get together at the library and they write for hours, or they talk or discuss or study. And I found out 2 weeks ago that I got accepted into my doctoral program for this fall. Thank you. But why I say that is that last year, they were like, come with us on Saturdays. I'm like, I'm not even in school. Why am I going on a Saturday? But they wanted to expose me to the support group. And so on the flip of kind of what Dr. Boone is saying is that try to create a network, because one thing that I have consistently heard and been consistently told is that you have to love what you are doing and you have to be 110% committed to it. And so on top of that, doing it with a group and or someone with you. I challenge a lot of my colleagues, say, hey, let's do this together. Let's be accountability partners. And I literally set up a lunch meeting, and I have an accountability partner, and we're gonna go through it together so that when on that Saturday, I don't wanna write or read, he should be dragging me to the library, or vice versa. So I would say if you choose to do it, because I ain't done yet, I'm just starting, as you guys know, but I would say already I feel like I have so much support and so much drive to do it, and the people around me, Dr. Merriweather is one of them, or soon to be, Dr. Merriweather, it's just make sure that you're doing it for you, and it's okay to have a group and a system to get to the end, because that might be what it is, that drives you. I know what drives me is a change to the statistics of people who look like us with doctoral degrees. And so just figure out what that niche is for you and make it happen.
You know I'm giving you the mic just because. By the way, Dr. Hinton and Dr. Mary Howard Hamilton are my faculty, getting me through my process, making me work. Good Lord.
What's the question? Is it to do or not to do? Not to do? To be or not to be? To be or not to be? Well, yeah. Well, I encourage every single person in here to do it, because it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and what? Somebody went to church. So, because as student affairs professionals, you do hit that moment where, I just experienced this on my campus, where somebody had the experience, worked in the area, but didn't have the credential. It was only because they didn't have the credential that they didn't get to move to the next level, or at least that was the excuse, because the job description said PhD preferred, but not required. But we ended up hiring a PhD, and the only people in the final pool were folks with the doctorate degree, whether it's EDD, PhD, DMiv, MDiv, some whatever. But so I encourage everybody, because it's not rocket science unless it's rocket science. And if you are at that level where you think in that realm of STEM, then you can do it at that level also. But getting a PhD is not rocket science. It is rigorous, it is difficult, it's often, you think you're being hazed. Was that right? It's more than thinking. It's a serious process. It's a life-changing undertaking. Everybody around you is in it with you. As you said, you have to build the support. I encourage you to do it. Talk to the folks who've been through it recently, who went through it a long time ago, who are helping to shape those in it. Talk to professors who teach in those programs, and ask how can it be done, because it can be. If I can do it, anybody can.
This really could be an extended session. We're running short on time. We didn't even get to cover all the topics, but haven't these panelists been great? Have they helped you out?
Before we go home, I want to take a quick moment. Final thought for the black professionals in the room, and those people in the room who are here who are not black professionals, who care, who want to support. We thank you for joining us too, because understand, we all need help from somebody and somewhere. Starting with Dr. Boone, and we're going to run down the line. Final thought, biggest piece of advice you have. Try to get it in about 30 seconds.
It's simple. I say it on most of my taglines. Keep fighting the good fight. Whatever you are really passionate about, whatever you want to advocate for, you keep fighting for it. Just know your thing will look different than somebody else's. And then you just need to be able to tell that story to somebody else.
I would say remember to be your authentic self. Everyone presents themselves differently, and that doesn't make you any less perfect than anybody else. What you present to the table is just as good.
Well, she took part of mine. So not only being your authentic self, but don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone and try something new. And that includes finding new mentors, but don't stay inside the box. Don't live in that box, because you never know what you'll learn. I hated assessment, and now I absolutely love it. I'm kind of scared.
I would say, I guess, two things. One, it's never too early to be dope and impact this wonderful world of student affairs. And two, I would say be open to continuously learning. Be a lifelong learner, because it's going to help you in so many ways, even beyond just whatever it is you want to do with your career.
My final thought is that this thing called life is too short to hate on each other, and we're not each other's enemy. And so, you know, there's a song that says what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that's too little of.
Ditto. Let me just say, I'm gonna thank my mentor also, Dr. Mary Howard Hamilton, and I think Dr. Michael Sujet was in the room, and I think we should honor him as well. And with that, let's honor those whose shoulders we stand on. Let's remember them. Let's think about the work that they've done and the work that you're endeavoring to do, because what you do will either honor or dishonor what they've already created. Thank you.
Zeb took mine, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate it. Remember, haters gonna hate, so let's change the mentality. Let's break the glass ceiling by bringing each other up, okay? Let's bring each other up. Let's stop the drama. Let's truly be brothers and sisters, and not just brothers and sisters of the same color, brothers and sisters all around. Stop hating. Let's bring each other up.